Welcome back to Talking Sports with Chris. I'm Chris, and today I will be reviewing this past Friday's batch of trades in the NHL Trade Deadline. Now, I will only be focusing on Friday's trades and not previous days. Like on the day before, like Jake Gensel got traded to the Hurricanes. I won't be reviewing any of those. It's only going to be focusing on Friday. I will go over each trade, review it, and at the end give one winner and one loser of this NHL trade deadline. Now let's kick it off with the first trade where the Columbus Blue Jackets acquired goalie Malcolm Subban, I hope I said that right, from St. Louis Blues for future considerations. Now, the Columbus Blue Jackets aren't really in the hunt for the playoffs. Like, they haven't been really a good team these past few years, ever since getting Johnny Gaudreau. So I think this is just a kind of future, like building up for the future kind of deal. It's nothing so big, and it kind of helps the Blues. They're a playoff team, so like right now they're in the hunt for the playoffs. But this helps more future. Like on both sides of this trade, this is more of what's coming in the future for these two teams. So this could really help depending on what kind of considerations the Blues get in the future. This could really help them. And it's not a big trade as some others get, but it's just one of those trades where it could help both teams kind of in the future. Now let's quickly go to our next trade where the Carolina Hurricanes acquired forward Evgeny Kuznetsov uh, from the Washington Capitals for a third-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. Now this really helps the Carolina Hurricanes a whole lot with scoring. Kuznetsov is a great scorer, and the Hurricanes already have a really good team with Sebastian Aho and Frederick Anderson at the goalies net. And of course, we saw last year did really well in the playoffs. So acquiring Kuznetsov could really help them a lot. And this is not their only trade from the trade deadline, so they really improved here. Kuznetsov has been with the Capitals for a while now, but now he's sent to the Carolina Hurricanes. He's 31 years old, and this year he has 17 points with 6 goals and 11 assists. It doesn't look good on paper, but since now he's coming onto a Hurricanes team who have been spectacular this year with a record of 39-19-6. Pairing Kuznetsov with, like I said before, Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis and Jake Gensel, Jesper Fast, and all those guys. It's gonna be great. Like the Carolina Hurricanes are really making that push for this year's playoffs, and I think they are a big contender for the Stanley Cup this year. They have such a good team, and they're a good team. They're young too, and bringing Kuznetsov to be like a veteran presence as well to this super young team, I think it helps the Hurricanes a whole lot here. Um, yeah, he doesn't really score that much, but they got Sebastian Aho to do that a lot of scoring. Like Sebastian Aho has 68 points, 25 goals, and 43 assists. Like that as a scoring. If you want to score, that's really all you really need. If you just surround him with some other decent scoring like Jake Gensel, Brady Skidgey as a defensive player, and obviously Kuznetsov. Like the Hurricanes have a really great team here, and they're really pushing for that next step in the playoffs. Obviously, they did well last year, but didn't make it over that to make it into the Stanley Cup. But they're looking like a great contender. Now onto another big contender. It's the Florida Panthers. They acquired forward Kyle Okposo from the Buffalo Sabres for defenseman Carl Skidlin and a conditional 24 NHL draft pick. I definitely botched that name, but this is another team that is building themselves to be a huge playoff contender. Like last year, they made it. The Florida Panthers made it to the NHL Stanley Cup. Obviously, lost to the Vegas Golden Knights, but they're here and they're making the moves to really surround their main core guys. Like they got guys on the team like Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk, who Tkachuk's one of the best players in the whole league, and he's only 26 years old. Like he's amazing, and they even have who I will mention later, Vladimir Tarasenko. Like they are really building this team up like a lot, and they got Sergei Bobrovsky. Like this team is one of the best in the whole league. Like they've literally, they even got Sam Reinhart. I almost forgot about him. Um, they're one of the best teams in the whole league. They've really pushed themselves over the top with these trades of like this year they're amazing this year with a 44 wins, 17 losses, and 4 overtime losses. Like that's a really good record, and the Panthers are really on the very top, one of the best in the power rankings. I mean, they lead the Atlantic Division. They lead the whole Eastern Conference, really. Let alone leads the whole NHL and with 92 points. Like they're a really good team. Like they're 1 point ahead of Boston, and they're just they're that one team who made it to the Stanley Cup last year. And with these trades that they got with Tarasenko, with Okposo, to pair with Reinhard Bobrovsky, they're really pushed over that hump to be one of the top 2 Stanley Cup contenders, if not even the biggest, like one of the best odds wise to win the whole Stanley Cup. Like Florida's got defense, it's got scoring, it's got everything you really need to round out a good hockey team. So I really think Florida could really win it all this year. Um, Next, we got the Anaheim Ducks acquiring forward Ben Myers from the Colorado Avalanche for a 5th-round pick. Nothing too big here as well, but Colorado Avalanche is also a big contending team. So I think maybe what the Avalanche will do is flip this pick on this offseason to get something better. Like they're a really good playoff team, or maybe they could even just use it for the future. Like the Colorado Avalanche are in such a great stand where they're just one of the best teams in the league as well. I mean, they made some good trades this trade deadline. Nothing like too huge. Like there's nothing really too big besides like what the Panthers did. Like nothing else was really really huge. But the Colorado Avalanche, they're 3rd in the Central Division, and no, and they're 4th in best in the Western Conference. They're really just really good with a 40 and 20-5 record. They're one of the best teams in the league as well. They're also a big contender. So this really doesn't hurt them at all. I mean, they still got guys like Nathan McKinnon and Zach Perry and Miles Wood. Like this does not hurt them at all. Like this maybe makes them better in the long term. I mean, it's just a 5th-round pick, but you never know what that 5th-round pick could use. It could be a huge, like they could trade it in a package to get another star. It's gonna take a lot if they use a 5th-round pick, but it's or they can just draft someone and maybe land on a good roster player. I mean, this doesn't like for the Anaheim Ducks, they're not a good team at all this year. But Ben Myers maybe could help him. He's not like someone like he's a left wing. He's 25 years old. Um, and looking at his stats right here from this season, he only has 1 point in 10 games. So, he in his whole career he only has 6 goals and like 6 points. So he's not really a someone that's gonna put Anaheim over the hump. Trevor's when the Ducks have guys like Trevor Zegras and um, so I don't think it's really gonna help them or hurt them too much. It's just another one of those players where kind of have to see how they develop, how they fit in this roster. But I don't think he's a mainstay for this team. So nothing too big there. Next, we got the Rangers acquired defenseman Chad Rudwiddle from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a fourth-round pick in the 2027 draft. This really doesn't do anything in my opinion. I mean, it's a fourth-round pick in a draft that's in 3 years from now. Maybe Pittsburgh can flip it, see what happens, but the Rangers are already a good team, and so they didn't really need to do anything this trade deadline in my opinion. Like, yes, it would be amazing if they did, but they just got pretty mid players. I mean, Robidol 33 only has 1 goal and 3 assists for 4 points in 47 games this season. Yes, he won a Stanley Cup in 2017. Maybe that's why they brought him in, because he is a Stanley Cup winner. He knows how to win it. But he's also a defensive player, so shouldn't be too big on scoring. But as someone who knows the Rangers and knows that they're not really the team that has been going too late in the late playoff rounds, they would probably need more scoring. But I think this year is just a nice defensive piece that could help guys like Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba. So it fits well for. I mean, they do got great scores like Capo Caco and Blake Wheeler and Panarin and Lafreniere, Chris Kreider. So I think it's one of like this adds to it already well roster. Um, like the Rangers are great this season with a 41-18-4 record. So this is pretty decent trade, I guess. It does help the defense a lot, I guess, for the Rangers. And same for this. Let's just go straight to this next one. The Rangers acquired Nick Paton from the Minnesota Wild for forward Turner Elson. Not really the same thing. It's not really big trade. Um, it's not a big trade that's gonna shake up either of these teams. Like Nick Paton, he's a center. And this season, let me just look at his stats. This season, 2 assists, 2 points, for 6 games played. Nothing too big. He's 28 years old. It's not really, it's not really gonna hurt or help the Rangers. And same thing for the Minnesota Wild here as they trade for Turner Elson. I don't think it's gonna help nor hurt this team. I mean, both of these teams. I mean, he has 5 goals and 7 assists in 38 games. Ellison. The Pittsburgh Penguins are here and there for this playoff run. I mean, they still got great players like Sidney Crosby, but they just sold Jake Gensel. So I don't know. It doesn't really help either of these teams. Like I said though, it doesn't hurt them. They still have great players, but it's not really one of those big trades like the Tarasenko trade we will talk about later. Now we got San Jose acquired forward Klim Kostlin from the Detroit Red Wings for defenseman Radim Simek and seventh round pick for the 2024 NHL draft. Another one. San Jose is not good at all this season. So I guess this is just maybe a dump off some cap space to um maybe see something. Clint Costin, he's a young player, so that's I think they just want to accumulate a young player. For the Sharks, he has 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 points in 34 games played. And his career is decent stats with 19 goals, 17 assists, 36 points, and 137 games played for his career. So I think it's a decent acquired player for the San Jose Sharks, who's not a good team at all. Um, but if this maybe could help the San Jose Sharks in the long run, I guess it's a good trade now for Radim Simek. In 44 games played, he has 1 goal, 2 assists. He's a defenseman. In his career, he has a total of 22 assists, which is not bad for only having 290 games played. But he's also 31 years old. But this Detroit Red Wings team is like really good, so it's not a big loss. Like they still got Patrick Kane and DeBrincat, and they are a playoff team, so it's not a huge loss. Um, for the Red Wings giving up like a young player like that, like they are like right they're in the wild card and they're practically touching the last spot in Atlantic Division with 10 points behind, but they're still in the wild card round. They're still in the playoffs. Like Detroit is not a bad team, so that even though that his stats are bad, it's not gonna hurt because obviously still having guys like JT Comfort and Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. Like they're still a pretty decent team, like definitely a wild card team, but it doesn't hurt. Now next we will go to the Winnipeg Jets. Acquire Tyler Toffoli from the New Jersey Devils for a 3rd-round pick in the 2024 NHL draft and a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. This is a great trade on the Winnipeg Jets side. Not so much on the Devils side. The Devils could have gotten more from this, but Winnipeg's got a stud of a player. He led the Devils all season with points. As a Devils fan, this hurt. This actually really hurt because Toffoli is such a good goal scorer. Yeah, he's not good defensively, but to add this to a Winnipeg Jets team who's got like Connor Hellebuck still, I believe, and Sean Monahan. So this is a big get for this Winnipeg Jets team. I can barely talk right now, and they're a playoff team too. So it's not like it's just he's there for the like he's expiring his contract. He's not like he's there. Like he's this 1 year rental who's gonna try to who the Jets got to help them booster them to a Stanley Cup champion. Like most of these trades is to just help really good teams get better to that Stanley Cup champion. Like Winnipeg is second in the Central Division with 85 points. They have 40 wins, 18 losses, and 5 overtime losses. But they're still a really good team. They got Sean Monahan, the center, who they got from the Montreal Canadiens a couple days ago, and they got Tyler Toffoli to be their starting right wing. Colin Miller, who they also got from the Devils for a pick. So I think the Devils really lose out here by losing both Colin Miller and Tyler Toffoli, who were 2 really decent players for this team. But I like what I heard from Tom Fitzgerald, the Devils general manager. They're just getting these picks just to look forward to the this off season. Which is not what you kind of want to hear when they got over 100 points last year. They beat the Rangers in the 1st round. Obviously, they lost to the Hurricanes in the 2nd round. But when you go from that to having a horrendous season this year, and you dump off one of your star players, Tyler Toffoli, like I don't, that's a big loss for this Devils team, but a big win for the Winnipeg Jets, acquiring a good defenseman and a good wing. Next, Nashville Predators acquired forward Jason Zucker from the Arizona Coyotes for a 6th-round pick in the NHL draft. Now, I think this is a good trade for the Nashville Predators. They are a really good team. They're in the playoffs as of right now. They have guys like Roman Yossi and Jose Saros. And now adding someone, a 32-year-old in Jason Zucker. He's a really good player. This year he scored 9 goals and 16 assists with 25 points in 53 games played. That's a pretty good overall season for this player who's 32 years old. And just to add that to a really good Nashville Predators team, I think this is a really good trade. Nashville, or they're fighting for a playoffs, not for a playoff spot. Like they're right there in the playoff. They're right there to make the playoffs. They are the number one wild card spot, just above the Vegas Golden Knights. They have the Nashville Predators have 37 wins, 25 losses, and 4 overtime losses with 78 points. Like that is a good team, and adding a guy like Jason Zucker is a great trade. On the side of the Arizona Coyotes, they just got a 6th round pick, nothing too big for the 2024 NHL draft. I think maybe the Zucker is just a dump off some cap space, really. I think that's what it is. I'm not like too positive, but just getting a 6th round pick is nothing really too big. Now next we got the Boston Bruins acquired forward Pat Maroon from the Minnesota Wild for Luke Toporowski and a conditional 6th round pick. No, in the 2026 NHL draft. Again, nothing too big. I mean, another 6th round pick sending over to the Coyotes, but Pat Maroon coming to the Bruins. He is pretty decent. He has 16 points this year with 4 goals and 12 assists. I mean, just to add that, he's a 35-year-old, so he's like middle age. I think he is there for a veteran spot on this Boston Bruins team, who's a really good team. They're right behind the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. And Boston, they have Linus Yolmark, Jeremy Swayman. They have such a good team that this is a nice veteran presence. They obviously last year had a records season, but did lose to the Florida Panthers in the playoffs, which was hard for Boston because they looked like they could have won it all, but so they're probably just they just needed that one guy to just to be a locker room guy, and I think that's what Pat Maroon is. Now look for Luke Toporowski coming into is it the Coyote? No, the Minnesota Wild. I called them the Coyotes before. But no, it's the Minnesota Wild that's getting that 6th round pick, and Luke Toporowski. Now this year, Luke he doesn't have any stats in the NHL. This year he's been in the AHL, so it's just a young piece to come to the Wild. He's 22 years old. He was undrafted before out of Iowa. So I think this is just he's a young piece coming to the Minnesota Wild, giving the Boston Bruins a good veteran presence. So I think this is pretty good for the Wild. I mean, they get someone young who they can develop, maybe get into a superstar in the coming years. But nothing that's gonna spark any of these teams to really push them like previous. Now we got the Philadelphia Flyers acquired defenseman Eric Johnson from the Buffalo Sabres for a 4th round pick in the 2024 NHL draft. Now the also again the Philadelphia Flyers, they're right near that they're right in that playoff hunt for the Metropolitan League. Um or the Metropolitan Division. And Eric Johnson, he has 51 goals played, but he's a defenseman with 3 goals. Not too good. Like you would like to see more points, but he's 35 years old, and the same thing with Pat Maroon and the Boston Bruins. I believe this is more of a veteran presence to help a young team with like Morgan Frost, um, to help this Philadelphia Flyers really do well this playoffs. They are in the last seed of the Metropolitan League with 74 points, 10 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, so I think, and they're like tied with Tampa Bay for a wild card spot, but since Tampa Bay's in a different division, they get the upper hand. So it's a pretty decent trade. I mean, it's nothing too big. It's not it's the same thing with all these other ones there. And this Friday, besides like a very few like there's very few really big trades. Now I'm just gonna speed through these rest of these. I'm gonna speed through the rest of those kind of trades where it's like just young players or old players switching over to like playoff teams or just people who are teams that are not really good. So like the Boston Bruins acquired defenseman Andrew Peeke from the Columbus Blue Jackets for defenseman Jacob Zaboral and a third round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. Same like I said before with the Bruins, they're a good team going into that playoffs, and then so another defenseman to help with defending goals. I mean, I think it really helped because they gave up a lot of goals to Florida Panthers last year in the playoffs, and then a third round pick going to the Blue Jackets with defenseman Jacob Zaboral. Nothing too big. I mean, the Blue Jackets are not a playoff team. So the Flyers also acquired forward Dennis Gurinov from the Nashville Predators for forward Wade Allison. That's two playoff teams. Just making a quick, making a switch forwards. Like I said, like with a lot of these trades, it's not going to help or it's not going to hurt any of these teams, and that's really the theme of this NHL trade deadline. It's not like these players are not going to help nor hurt any of these teams. Then we got the Florida Panthers acquiring Magnus Hellberg from the Pittsburgh Penguins for goalie Ludovic Weber and a conditional seventh round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. That's I mean, Pittsburgh gets a goalie, young goalie, and a draft pick. Florida just gets another goalie. He's probably young as well, so it's nothing too big, really, for these teams. I mean, the Panthers are already a great team. Next, we get the Devils acquiring Jake Allen from the Montreal Canadiens for a conditional third round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. Now, I think this is pretty big as a Devils fan. I'm excited for this because the Devils have had terrible goalie percentages all year with Vitek Vanacek, who I'll get to later. Kira Schmidt, like Nico Dawes got some fire in him, but he's been playing like so many back-to-back games where I think he just gets tired. So getting a good veteran guy like Jake Allen who can bring a great locker room presence as well. He's pretty good. He's gonna be into a third goalie room now with Nico Dawes and Kapu Kakin, who I will later talk about. So it's a pretty good trade for the Devils. I mean, they're kind of close to the playoffs, but so they're 6 points back from the last wild card spot. They're pretty close to the playoffs, but like it's not really likely that they're gonna make the playoffs. If they do, they'll probably just get kicked out in the first round. But Jake Allen's a controlled goalie who they plan to have next season, so it's a pretty good trade for the New Jersey Devils who really want to get back into the playoffs. So the Tampa Bay Lightning acquired defenseman Matt Dumba and a seventh round pick of the 2025 NHL draft from the Arizona Coyotes for a fifth round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. Matt Dumba or Dumba, I probably botched that name as well, but he's coming into a pretty good Tampa Bay Lightning team. Like they're also in the playoffs. Like so bring in Matt Dumba, who has 10 points. He has 4 goals and 6 assists, which is not bad for a defenseman. He's 29 years old, coming to a Tampa Bay team who's 34, 25, and 6. They're right near that playoff. They're right near the playoffs. Like they have a team that can really make it, make a run. Like they got Steven Stamkos, Anthony Duclair. They got in Matt Dumba. Like they got a good team who can really make the playoffs. They just kind of put it out on the table, and that's really all I got for that trade. I mean, a seventh round pick is just that seventh round pick was just in there. Really, it's like it was just to fulfill the trade, I guess. And then a 5th-round pick to Arizona Coyotes. I can just see these Coyotes just stacking up picks for the future, whether they're going to draft them or if they're going to trade them to get trying something big. Really quick here. This is the nothing trade. It's Calgary Flames acquired defenseman Nikita Ahutikach from the San Jose Sharks for a 5th-round pick. It's just an AHL player going for a 5th-round pick of the 2024 NHL draft. Doesn't affect any like these two teams are not gonna be in the playoffs. And then the San Jose Sharks acquired goalie Devin Cooley from the Buffalo Sabres for a 7th-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. Again, the San Jose Sharks are not going to make the playoffs at all. So this is just kind of a filler trade. I mean, they gave a 7th-round pick with the 2025 draft to the Sabres. I think this goalie is pretty young, so I guess that's why the Sharks brought him over for the future. That's all I can really say about it. And then the Winnipeg Jets acquired defenseman Colin Miller from the Devils for a 4th-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft. I was talking about this before. It's pretty gonna help the Jets, all right, because they got a great team like Foley and Colin Miller. Like they have a really good team. So I was saying this before. And this is going to really help them at least push forward to more into the playoffs. So the Winnipeg Jets are a really good team. The Vegas Golden Knights, they acquired forward Tomas Hertl, a 3rd-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, and a 3rd-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft from the San Jose Sharks for forward David Edstrom, and a 1st-round pick and a 1st-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. Now, Tomas Hertl's a really good player going to the Vegas Golden Knights. He was stuck in the bad San Jose Sharks team. He has 15 goals, 19 assists, and 34 points in 48 games played. And this is a good Vegas Golden Knights team who are really fighting for a playoff spot as they're in the last wild card spot with 75 points. They're really fighting for that to make the playoffs after last year winning the Stanley Cup. But with this trade, getting Tomas Hertl and pairing him with guys like Jonathan Marchessault. I hope I said that last name right. I probably did not. And like guys like Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill. I think this really definitely helps the Vegas Golden Knights. They also got Noah Hannafin for the defense, so this could really help a once was a Stanley Cup team last year, now coming barely in the playoffs right now. So hopefully for this Vegas Golden Knights team, the Tomas Hertl really turns up for them. It really does well. I think it's a really good trade. And San Jose Sharks, they did this to get off his contract and get a 1st-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft and David Edstrom. The San Jose Sharks are in a full-on sell. They were in a full-on sell mode. They're more looking towards the future, and I can see that here. Last 3 trades, we got the New York Rangers acquired Jack Roslovich from the Columbus Blue Jackets for a conditional 4th-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft. Another one where it's like, meh. Like the Rangers are really pretty good. Yeah, they're really good. They didn't really need a guy like Jack Roslovich. Like they already have a great team. I feel like they should have gotten for more like superstar type players. Like maybe they go in to get someone like Tomas Hertl. They'll try to get, but they didn't. Larazovich, he's a decent player. He's 27 years old. He has 6 goals, 17 assists, 23 points this season. He's a decent player coming into the Rangers team with Chris Kreider and Panarin and the Rangers are really in a playoff spot. They lead the Metropolitan League over the Flyers and the Hurricanes. Like they're in the playoffs, so I guess this is just a depth piece, really. Um, Nothing so big that's gonna put them over. I feel like they could have done better here. Yeah, they could have done better here to get a better team to push more to the playoffs. Like if they lose in the 1st round again, I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what the Rangers could do because they lost last year in the first round with Patrick Kane and Tarasenko. If they lose this year in the first round, it's gonna be terrible. Then we got Toronto Maple Leafs acquired forward Connor Dewar from the Minnesota Wild for forward Dmitry Ovechkinov. I said that name wrong. It's a really long name. And a fourth round pick in 2026 NHL draft. Another really pretty mid kind of trade. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're really good. Minnesota Wild, meh. So it's like me. It can help like it definitely helps the Maple Leafs a tad bit. Like this year, Dewar has 10 goals, 14 assists, and 14 points in 58 games played. Like he's not a generational player as of right now, but he can bring some good presence to the Maple Leafs, and he's young. He's only 24 years old from Canada. He was a third round pick in 2018. Um, so he can be pretty good for the Maple Leafs, who are also fighting for a playoff spot this year. Um, so yeah, it could definitely help the Maple Leafs a good bit, who have like Austin Matthews, and they just have a good team. And last, we got the San Jose Sharks acquire goalie Vitek Vanacek and a seventh round pick for in the 2025 NHL draft from the New Jersey Devils for goalie Kaapo Kahkonen. This is something the Devils really need to do, get Vicek's contract off. Same thing as Tom Fitzgerald said. This was really something to build on for the future. Kaapo Kahnen's a free agent after this year, so he's an expiring contract. But hopefully, maybe Kahnen does good. Like obviously, the Devils did address goalies this trade deadline, but they didn't address it enough as fans really wanted them to. Like if they so this is a decent, like depending how Kaapo Kahkonen does, this could be a decent trade for for the Devils. Like they haven't, like he hasn't really done good this year, but he's also been stuck behind a terrible Sharks roster. This year he's 60, 20, and 3, has a 3.82 goals against average and a .895 save percentage. That's not really good, especially if the Devils really needed good goaltending. Maybe, hopefully, this helps them, but we'll have to see. Now that's all the trades that happened on last Friday for the NHL trade deadline. So I'm gonna have two winners and two losers. So my two winners are gonna be the Florida Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, they really address needs, and they really show themselves to be a great contender now for the Stanley Cup. Like the Florida Panthers and the Jets, they're too good. Like they're too good now. Like I can really see them both in the Stanley Cup. Um, Obviously, the Winnipeg, I think is in the Western Conference, and Florida being in the Eastern Conference. I can see them both in the Stanley Cup. So both these teams are just excellent. Um, they're both really good teams. So adding for the Winnipeg Jets to Foley and Colin Miller, really good. And the Florida Panthers, they got Tarasenko and Okposo. This could really definitely help them and advance to the next step in the playoffs. So hoping for the Panthers to finally kick that next step and maybe even win a Stanley Cup this year, which they failed to do last year. And for my two losers, the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. The Devils really had to go all in this NHL trade deadline, in my opinion, because they're like on the brink of playoffs, but they're on the brink of just losing out. They're not good this year at all. I mean, Tom Fitzgerald did say they're looking for forward to this summer, this off season. But I really think that they should have went all in. I mean, they came from 100+ point season last year to now barely making the playoffs, if not missing the playoffs this year. And the Rangers, I think they should have went all in as well because They got kicked out first round last year. They could get kicked out first round or second round this year. Like they don't really have that spicy hot team. They don't have that huge star-studded team like other teams do, like the Panthers. And they just went out, got some like mid players. Um, yeah, they got some pretty mid players that not really gonna help them at all. Really, it's like the Rangers could have done so much better this trade deadline, and now they're in a tough stretch in my opinion, where they have a great lead. Um, and they have a great lead in the Metropolitan division, but it's just not looking well, in my opinion, at least. Now we're just gonna do some quick trivia here, some NHL trivia. When was the first NHL game played? Was it December 19th of 1917? Was it January 31st of 1920? Was it July 15th of 1895? Or was it September 30th of 2000? Drop your answers down below in the description, whether you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube. And also, let me know your spicy hot takes as well. Didn't really get one this for this episode, but if you want to be featured next episode, send in your spicy hot takes in the comments or in the description as well on Spotify. Let me know. Thanks for listening to this long episode. It's longer than usual, but thanks for listening. Stick around. You'll hear some more sports news, whether it's NBA, NHL, NFL, anything sports. Stay tuned for episodes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Have a good night.